I got to be working on this bad Larry. It's a sad, sad day for L series everywhere. Another one of these bad Larrys getting pulled out. You can either get an LS or a 2JZ swap in there. Yeah, what are you gonna do? Flavors change, people change, genders change. You know, everything changes over time. Thought I was gonna be rocking this L series for a while, but noticed that metal flake, and time for that 2J. In the oil, that is. So with the 2J, she's all good to go. I threw my turbo on just to fit it up. Make sure everything was going to clear with the intake manifold. And I was going to use it crossover intake manifold because it's cheap. It's free. I already have it. But it doesn't fit. Not bragging. Turbo and the manifold sitting up too high. Maybe be a little big. Maybe a little too thick. It's only an S360, but it still wasn't clearing. Either way, I'm getting a forward-facing intake manifold. One of those cheapo ones from eBay. And getting a Q45 throttle body. I'm going to use my TIG down there and it's collecting dust, filling the holes that were pre-drilled for that Mustang throttle body. Those forward-facing ones are for throttle bodies on a Mustang between 1986 and 1993. So I'm going to fill in those holes with my aluminum and drill and tap for that Q45, and that stuff will be good to go. I'm also going to be coating my valve covers. Put the valve covers in the intake manifold, just like how I had for the L series. Might do the exhaust manifold as well, because the paint doesn't hold up. I mean, it's starting to turn white. It was just that black stuff. So a little brief overview and how I got my board going around here. In the first place, I got a T3 to T4 flange adapter. For my wastegate, I drilled a hole in the side, a 38 millimeter or an 1.5-inch hole. And I got a 38 millimeter tube, stuffed it in, welded it in. I got a 38 millimeter tile flange, welded it on, bolted that guy right on. And because I cut and welded a hole over here for my wastegate, I couldn't put a nut on this thread right there. So I just got a C-clamp, clamped it down as best as I could, and tack welded that guy on there. Never leaked, so whatever. Also had a 94 amp alternator on here from an Oldsmobile, late 80s or something like that. It was nice. Thought I was going to have it for a while, but metal flake in the oil, no good. It's trashed. So speaking of trashed, I had all intentions to reuse my clutch and everything, but it looks like it got a little hot. It's pretty damn shiny. It's close to the rivets too. Might get a little bit of life out of this thing, but I really don't want to be swapping the clutch out. They're not that expensive though. I think the $6 sprung are like $160. The amount of money that I spent so far, I might as well reuse my pressure plate, of course. Save some money there. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Gonna start yanking out all this wiring. 40-plus-year-old wiring is not gonna really work. So I'll just get like a cheapo 12 circuit or something from eBay. I'm not gonna be running a stereo or AC or anything like that, so I don't really care as long as I have lights. And then for my engine, I have all my Megasquirt stuff. Thankfully, I'll be able to reuse my relay board, because the pin layout between MS2 and MS3 are the same, except for the MS3 has the MSX pin layout that has a separate DB37 plug on there. So that's for all your sequential injectors and stuff. And of course, I'm going to be running sequential. Why not? It's there. It's going to be sad to see all my EDIS stuff getting yanked out. Worked really hard on that. But yeah, if someone out there is interested in the EDIS setup on your L series, let me know. I got the trigger wheel and all that stuff, the VR sensor. VR, I think it's what it's called. I don't remember. Oh, fun thing is that, see that, where all those lines are coming from? They're coming from the top of the transmission tunnel. I don't know what Nissan was thinking, so maybe the 280Zs were different. The 240 and 260s are the same in this aspect, where your brake lines and your fuel lines are both coming from the top of the transmission tunnel. It's ridiculous. Why would you do that? I get it, it's a small car, but you should be able to route that stuff on the bottom. And all that heat, especially up here in Utah, it just soaks all my brake lines and all my fuel lines. Not to mention those fuel lines are only 5/16 for the carbureted engine that was in here, the L26. And I'm going to be running, so I need to run at least a 3/8 for my car. Well, for my engine, no. And if you guys notice that, got my 1-inch master cylinder on there. And then I had to run a separate proportioning valve because the turbo was too big. Not bragging, but it was too big. So that stock valve that they had right there were those two little those two little areas are the holes. It just wasn't fitting. The turbo was sitting up against it, so I don't want my brake fluid to be boiling. Thankfully, this guy's been in the desert its whole life, so all I had to do, I was able to reuse my stock brake line there. Just got a little union in between there. Flared the end with a tube nut. Tightened her up. Again, thanks for watching. I'll get that valve cover painted and the intake manifold all squared away.